Class is in session. College football hitting the book show. Welcome to our bowl preview, part 1 edition of the College Football Hitting the Book show. Ian Cameron and Connor Mack with you. We had no college football show last Monday, but we're back this week, and we will be back the next 2 weeks. We're having our bowl preview part 1 show today. Next Monday, December 22nd, we will have part 2 of the bowls. The way we'll do it is we'll break down every bowl game from now through till Saturday, through to and including Saturday, December the 27th. So all the bowl games from now until the 27th we'll talk about here today, including, of course, the college football playoff first round matchups that take place this weekend. So all of that on today's show. And then next Monday will be the bowl games, Monday, December 29th and beyond, as well as the quarterfinal round of the college football playoff. So that'll all be next Monday. But CMAC, bowl season's here. We actually have one bowl game in the books already. Washington just drilling Boise State in the LA Bowl. And we talked about it on Friday. It was lay it or don't play it for me. And I did grab that Washington double result. I mentioned that on Friday's show. Lead at half, win the game. Obviously, if you laid the points, you were gold still. They won big. But, Washington, no problem with Boise State in Los Angeles in the first bowl game of the season.
Yeah, you could see it. And the turnovers for Boise. Just we talked about this Washington team, just how better they were, and this defense, was pretty damn good. And they showed it. That second quarter, too. It was a little bit slow early, and bang, 3 tutties. And it was like, that was over. All right. Clear sailing, sail away.
No doubt, exactly. Yeah, sailing like Christopher Cross. Sailing away was Washington to victory in that game. All right, let's get into it. We will begin with the bowl game taking place Tuesday night, tomorrow night, if you're watching this on Monday. This game, Tuesday, December 16th. It is the Salute to Veterans Bowl is the name of this one. We've got the Troy Trojans taking on the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. This game being played in Montgomery, Alabama. We've got Troy, 2-point favorites currently in this game, 48.5 being the total in this matchup. You've got obviously a pair of teams. This is a very interesting matchup because we have 2 teams here facing off in this bowl game that were fell short and lost their respective conference championship games. Troy lost to James Madison in the Sun Belt Championship, and Jacksonville State falls short to Kennesaw State in the Conference USA Championship game. So we've got 2 teams facing off here, coming off conference championship losses. And what makes that interesting, CMAC, is I like to usually bet on the teams in their bowl game when they lose their conference championship. You don't want to end the season on a loss. You want to get the taste out of your mouth. Whereas the team that wins the conference championship game, sometimes you can be a little bit satisfied, and the bowl game might be, a little bit of an afterthought. I think a perfect example of that is Boise State Saturday against Washington. It's almost like, hey, we won the Mountain West championship game. Good season. And, we didn't see that great performance, great focus from Boise in the bowl game against Washington. So you got kind of 2 teams that, in these spots, normally I'd look to bet against them. So if it's a wash as far as that's concerned, you dig into the matchup, you dig into the, the opt-out situation. And it looks like here for this game, it'll be interesting to see how it goes because for Troy, there was an injury late in the game against James Madison to Goose Crowder, the quarterback. Leaving his status for this bowl game against Jacksonville State very much up in the air. And if he doesn't go, obviously you're talking about a guy that started a bunch of games, that's very familiar with starting for Troy, and Tucker Kilcrease. This is a guy that obviously started much of the season. The latest update, though, on Goose is optimistic, and that he was a full participant in practice late last week. So starting to look good for Goose Crowder as far as his chances of starting here for Troy in this bowl matchup against Jacksonville State, which is good to see, and obviously the time off has helped. The thing with Troy, it's very interesting. They have a hard time running the football, and when you look at their offense, they seem to be boom or bust. They can create some big plays, they can create some explosive plays, but they have a very, very hard time matriculating the football methodically down the field. That always seems to be the issue with Troy. The offensive numbers kind of bear that out. And obviously they're taking on a Jacksonville State team here in this matchup where, they're a little bit better on the defensive side against the run. You can throw on this team a little bit. And so that'll be an interesting matchup if Troy can have some success throwing the football. As we always say with Jacksonville State, can you stop the run? Can you defend the run? Because if you can, you have a good chance to win and beat Jacksonville State. If you can't stop the run, you're going to have trouble with Jacksonville State. Well, Troy's defensive numbers against the run not only are not great, but they got worse later in the year. 4.7 yards per carry allowed. That's 104 in the country. 182 rushing yards per game allowed. That's 101st in the country. And then you just look at the last 3 games of the season, the rushing yards per game numbers got worse allowed for Troy, 188.3. They gave up 5.3 yards per carry here as well. So that makes it tricky here because you've got certainly a Troy defense that, with their struggles statistically against the run, it makes it hard for me to lay points with them because we know that's what we're going to get from Jacksonville State, a heavy, heavy dose of running the football with Cam Cook, the running back, and also the dual threat quarterback who's probably a better runner than he is a thrower in Caden Creel. So that's going to become a bit of a matchup issue here for Troy. But then there's the element of, we are talking about a Sun Belt team versus a Conference USA team, and there's no debate which conference is the stronger conference, the conference that has the better teams top to bottom. So while the matchup does favor Jacksonville State, it's kind of difficult for me to jump in, C-Mac, and say, because I know Conference USA is just not a very good conference. You're still talking about maybe a little bit of a talent edge, a little bit of a athleticism advantage, maybe for the Trojans here, coming from the stronger G5 conference, because there's no doubt, you can't argue it. You can't argue it whatsoever. The Sun Belt was a better G5 conference this year than Conference USA, and it's been that way now for a couple of years. So it's a really tough bowl game. I'd side with the matchup more than the conference pedigree. So that has me leaning Jacksonville State as a slight dog. The team total over is something to look at here, because if we think Jacksonville State can run the football against a shaky Troy run defense, maybe the team total over is the best way to go about it here in this one. C-Mac, your thoughts on the Salute to Veterans Bowl?
Yeah, let's when I look at this, I just think it's too low. One thing with the Troy defense is kind of, Ben Bordeaux play hats. We saw in that first half, just a horrible fourth quarter, wore down against James Madison, because they've been an under team. That's why we have this number where it's at in this game. Because, man, when I see this.
You mentioned something else, C-Mac, too. I watched that Conference USA championship game. I couldn't believe what I was seeing against Kennesaw. They slowed the pace down incredibly, Jacksonville State.
Oh, Jacksonville. Yeah, that game.
They ran it down. And normally they play fast.
I was too. And hats off to Kennesaw, especially early. It's not that they shut them down, but they held the run. I mean, I think they had 40 for, over 200, but the game plan was pretty good. I thought, even though Jacksonville State got going a little bit in the second half. But yeah, when I see this, I want the over in this game. But Troy has just been a slower team, under team in this, because their defense is good but not great. And I think the end of the year, 5 straight unders did this team. We've seen them only one time this year against just a bad Monroe team where they were favorites, basically on the road. This is a bowl game. But I look at that, and this team was money, 4-3 on the road, 6-1 ATS. I go through that in these bowl games. Who played well away from home, even though these are neutrals. That's exactly what I look at in this spot. So this is tough. I lean over, but I think Jacksonville State will be able to run the football here. One thing with Jacksonville State, they're even struggles defensively. It worked out in bigger type games, especially at home. For them, this is a team that's a lot better here at home. It's not crazy travel for these teams. This is Montgomery, Alabama. So it's close. So I think they'll be able to run the football and have success. And their defense, talking about it, +9 turnover. They had, especially at home, they had some big games. Even the Kennesaw, that's where Kennesaw lost the first one. the first matchup in that one. So we'll see where this number ends up. I kind of think Jacksonville State can hang tight, especially if I'd like a 3 here, 3.5. I'm greedy. We bet numbers here. So 2, it's not so much. I think you just kind of take the 2 or even go money line, but I kind of lean over. I don't know if I love it. I'm going to have to look at it a little bit more, but that's where I'm leaning early here.
Well, the good news is for a lot of these weeknight games in the bowl games this week, no weather issues expected. No weather issues
looks good.
expected. So that's the good news. It looks like we're going to see some pretty good conditions here that won't impact the offenses very much, and that includes this game. All right, next up, we've got Old Dominion and South Florida in the Cure Bowl. This is on Wednesday. This is one of 2 games on Wednesday. This one starting at 5 p.m. Eastern time. We've got South Florida 3.5-point favorites, 53.5 the total. And actually, as we speak, I'm seeing that number moving down to 3 and even 2.5. So we've got some ODU, Old Dominion. Money.
That's what I like. I know.
Right here as we speak. Shit. And the reason for that's quite obvious.
Yeah.
We're talking about Alex Golish, who's left for Auburn. We're talking about a coaching staff in flux. We are talking about
no Brown.
Brown, the quarterback, not starting here in this game for Old Dominion or against Old Dominion here for South Florida. So it's going to be, and it looks like it's going to be Gatson Moore, who is slated to take over at the quarterback spot here for South Florida. Guy with minimal, obviously, experience here in the college level. Meanwhile, though, Old Dominion's not without some questions here, too. And that's obviously in the transfer portal is a guy that their quarterback who meant so much to them, Colton Joseph. He's moving on. And now they are going to have to go to Quinn Hennicle starting at quarterback here for this bowl game, Old Dominion against Florida. Against South Florida. So it'll be interesting to see.
I'll look that up. How many snaps did he get?
Well, here's the thing with Hennicle. Hennicle had 25 pass attempts for Old Dominion last year. He had 15 this year. So he's had 40 pass attempts the last 2 seasons for Old Dominion. And obviously familiar with the offense and the system, and have now been in this program for a couple years. 40 pass attempts. That's something. That's what I would consider a positive here for Old Dominion in this game. So yeah, even though you're going to miss, Colton Joseph, Quinn Hennicle has gotten under center, has had game action for this program to the tune of 40 pass attempts in the last 2 years. That can only help him here. And then you've turned it around to Gaston Moore here for the South Florida Bulls. He did have 20 pass attempts this year. Keep in mind, there were some games where he would get in and mop up duty, garbage time. That's where a lot of his snaps came from. He ended up having a 14 for 20 completion rate, 70% completions, 1 touchdown, no interception. Got into 6 games this year for South Florida. So he's got a little experience to him as well. I like this over, quite honestly, because with South Florida, it's still going to be, you would think, even with the coaching staff moving on, still going to get that South Florida tempo. They play at one of the faster paces in all of college football. Even with Gaston Moore starting, the Old Dominion defense, are they going to be equipped to shut down South Florida? I'm not sure. The defense was good against certain teams in the Sun Belt. Whether they can step up against, a non-Sun Belt team, a pretty good, let's be honest, American Athletic Conference is a pretty good G5 conference. Little step up from, what Old Dominion's faced in the Sun Belt. So, like I say, I've got some questions there. If you look at some of these non-conference outings, Old Dominion gave up 26 points to Virginia Tech, and that's a Virginia Tech offense that wasn't great. They gave up 27 to Indiana, which actually, in retrospect, looks pretty solid. 27 points to Indiana early in the season. So we'll see how it goes here. Old Dominion can move the football. The South Florida defense was never, phenomenal throughout the course of the year. So I know they're betting under because of the quarterback absences on both sides. No Colton Joseph for ODU, no Byron Brown for South Florida. People just say backup quarterbacks, offenses are going to stink. I'm going to wait this thing out, and at the lowest number I get, I'm going to go over this total because I think you're still going to get that South Florida pace, and I have no qualms with anybody leaning Old Dominion because I do think there's that definite concern here for me that South Florida is not all that amped up here for this particular bowl game, given the opt-outs and given the departure of Alex Golish and the coaching staff. What do you think here, C-Mac? ODU, USF.
Yeah, I knew this would move. I'm a little shocked this has gone through the three, just because the question marks of the quarterbacks in this game. Both, it's how you put it. Like, because I thought when you go through the numbers, South Florida, against the run, we saw this defense surprise us early in the year in some of these matchups. Then kind of as the conference went on, they got some shootouts. Obviously, they had a good offense. But same thing with Old Dominion. But it's like it seemed like that defense dominated against the bad teams, and just some of these bigger ones like the James Madison, like to see that game, where the 63 or Marshall at Marshall where they gave up 48. You talked about Virginia Tech, so it's like, but I don't know what we get from these quarterbacks. It's just such a question mark. I think in this game, one thing I think Old Dominion's going to do is run the football. Like a lot of handing off in this one. So this one was a tough one. That's a 2.5. It's tough for me because I like the Old Dominion. These lines, they get on in these bowl games. There's just such a, we'll go through it in more of these. We do this every year, but it gets more and more. These guys are paid. Everyone wants to leave. The coaches are there. And I think you get more of a feel really sitting on these because it's like who's a little bit motivated, who's not. It seems like who is here? This game in Orlando, I don't know. Sometimes it's kind of a wait and see. And if you don't know really on both, you just stay off the game. A lot of sports
bowl games too, C-Mac. If you're not sure what you're going to get from either team going in, watch early, and you can tell right away who's into it and who couldn't give a shit. You can tell right away, and usually that doesn't change over the course of the game. If you see a team, that just get run on and their defense is struggling, their offense not doing anything, and they're down 14-0 in the blink of an eye, and they look like they couldn't care less about playing in this game, that usually doesn't correct itself as the game goes on. That's usually the start of a blowout waiting to happen.
With them being paid, like I think they're going to have to go to really incentivize maybe these bowl games, like to get these players. Like I don't know how much you pay them for what, like, or losers get something.
Format as we know it's not going to be here in 2-3 years. Like we're not going to be doing this same type of show in 2-3 years because things are going to change quite a bit.
I think so because I'm like nobody gives a shit. Like I mean, like the season's not that they all don't, but it's become difficult.
I mean, they didn't make the playoff, and they said, "All right, our season's done. See you next year. We're not playing in a bowl game."
Yeah. They were like, "See ya."
Yep.
I mean, that people were pissed, but that shook out. That's one of those tough ones with they just lose to Miami in a tight game with defense that just wasn't who they became later, and that's basically the deciding factor. Miami beat them. Oh, they're in. So, yeah, the Irish, I thought that was pretty funny. No bowl game for them.
Yep. So we're shutting it down. Yeah, and that's exactly what they did. All right, next up, 68 Ventures Bowl. This is also Wednesday. We've got Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajuns, and the Delaware Blue Hens. Louisiana, 3-point favorites. 61.5 is the total here in this one. This actually is a game. Here's one team for sure. I do not doubt motivation and excitement to play in this bowl game, and that's Delaware. Delaware's a newbie. Delaware's a first-year FBS team. They are excited to go bowling. Make no mistake about it. Now, the question is, are they good enough in the trenches to win this game, to follow through on that excitement and that enthusiasm and turn it into victory? That's the question, because this is a Delaware defense that I'm telling you, down the stretch, they look like they were starting to wear down, get gassed, get fatigued. The wear and tear of the schedule in their first year as an FBS team kind of got to them, and they were giving up points to teams that, they probably shouldn't give up that many points to, like a Liberty, 59. Wake put 52 on the board. Sam Houston beat them when Delaware was a 12-point favorite in that game, and Sam Houston had a terrible year. Even in the win against UTEP, they gave up 31 points, and UTEP's offense wasn't anything to write home about. So you do worry about that a little bit, but Delaware's excited to play in a bowl game. The question is Louisiana also going to be excited? My guess is yes. My guess is yes, CMAC, because of the way they finished the season. They had to win 4 straight games to get to 6-6. They were 2-6. And then they ripped
turned it
off
around.
4 straight wins late in the year. It coincided with the quarterback switch to our guy, one of the best names in college football, Lunch Winfield. And all of a sudden, the Ragin' Cajuns offense started to get humming a little bit. Defense kind of fell down, though, late in the year, too. They gave up 35 to Troy, 39 to Texas State, 30 to Arkansas State. And even in the finale, that rivalry game against UL Monroe, the Warhawks, I mean, ULM's offense was garbage most of the year. And here's Louisiana giving up 27. Now, they won 30-27, but they gave up 27 points. They gave up over 500 yards to ULM. So the first thing that stuck out to me in this game, and clearly not just me, everybody else, because this total's gone up, is the over. I think this is a really good over. I think Louisiana can move the football on Delaware's defense, which is the weak point of the Delaware team. It has been all year. They've had some issues defensively. You look at this Louisiana team, they're more of a run-heavy offense, even with Lunch at quarterback. That stayed the same. They wanted to run it, run-oriented, and Delaware struggles against the run, giving up almost 5 yards per carry, 164 per game running the football. But the Delaware offense, their strength with Nick Minicucci, pretty good quarterback when he has time, throw the football. Well, Louisiana lacks a consistent pass rush. That's one thing. And the Louisiana secondary's been kind of sporadic throughout the course of the season. And plus the lack of consistent pressure from the Cajuns on defense. They didn't get many sacks. They didn't get many pressures down the stretch. And if you're going to give Minicucci, this pretty good quarterback for Delaware, time, under pressure, Minicucci was a different quarterback. He struggled in those situations like most quarterbacks would. But Louisiana had some issues getting consistent pressure. So Minicucci probably should be able to make some things happen down the field for Delaware. So I totally agree with the way this total's going. I thought when it was in the 50s, it was a little too low. 61.5. As long as you can catch it below 63, 64, 65, like I think we can get 34-28, 34-31, 35-28. I think we can see that kind of a game here between these two teams. Sidewise, it's tough because I think Louisiana played down the stretch like a team that wanted to get into a bowl game with those 4 straight wins. So I think they'll be excited. Delaware certainly will be. So it's two teams I think that are amped up. I wish they were playing other teams. I'd lean Delaware just because they're the dog, and I know Delaware's fired up. So the fact that, and to be in a bowl game, maybe win their first bowl game in program history at the Division I level, and you're +3, and I think you should be able to move the football. I guess I'd lean Delaware, but I am a bit concerned that Louisiana, they're a good team, and they're excited and want to win here as well. So lean Delaware. I think the over's the better option. C-Mac, what do you think here?
Shout out my guy, Man Bear Pig, Coin. Great to see you, my dude, up in here. Yeah, when I look at Delaware, the few times this team was the shit as a favorite. They were a dog, especially at home. Were very, very good. And they were a bad road team this year. Just 1-5, which I don't like. But they are catching the few points here. There are some 2.5. I mean, it's juiced here a little bit. -125, 130. But yeah, both teams should be motivated. It's tough for me with Delaware. I just think this defense isn't very good at all. Like, I think Louisiana's to be able to move the ball. But you talked about as good as Louisiana's offense was, they kind of gave up some points. They just became a little bit of a different team down the stretch in those wins. So maybe this does just fly over. But I think Louisiana, to me, is the better team. These are teams I want to be taking in situations. And I don't know if the bowl, this has enough for me to take them, really. I was disappointed in Delaware. And maybe they shouldn't have been these favorites in these spots, as big as they were. A lot of hype. They brought a lot of guys back. Louisiana was pretty good against the pass, but we know Delaware wants to throw it, or 116th. They average about 115 rushing yards a game. That's been a bit of a struggle for the Ragin' Cajuns. They give up 189. So ball should be moving here in this game. But that's it. I kind of like Louisiana. I would have to have under the 3. But when I thought of Delaware all year long is when they were catching points, and then, like you talked about, they'll be motivated.
like I said, I think both teams could have that incentive to want to win and play well here. Like I think you got two teams that want to be in a bowl game. Like I said, I lean just because they're trying to make history. I lean a little bit to Delaware here, and this feels like a shootout where both teams go back and forth. And usually in a game where defense could be lacking on both sides, you'd rather take the points than lay the points. So I do think I might have a small Delaware bet plus 3.5, but I like the over a lot more, as I mentioned. All right, next up.
A short trip, too. Mobile, Alabama, for Louisiana. We'll see with Delaware. Just team, I don't know. I didn't like the road play.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. That's then, of course, they won't be in Delaware. It's a neutral field here at Mobile, Alabama, Hancock Whitney Stadium. We'll see if Delaware can, like I said, they did have some issues away from home. We'll see if they can fix those here for this one. All right, let's go to Thursday night, where we have Missouri State, Arkansas State in the Xbox Bowl in Frisco, Texas. We've got Arkansas State 1.5-point favorites, 56.5 the total here in this game. The key things to point out here as far as this matchup is concerned that really not many opt-outs and not many injuries for both teams. So that's
another one. That's kind of like the last game.
Yeah, exactly.
Same. Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah. Nice to have that for a change. So the one thing I won't do here is bet against Missouri State. Just like what I mentioned for Delaware, the other team in Conference USA, where they're a first-year FBS team, they made it into a bowl game. There's likely going to be excitement, enthusiasm. I want to win here for this Missouri State team. And I know I've mentioned it before. I like the quarterback, the big, tall kid, Jacob Clark. He can throw the football for this Missouri State team. You look at what the Bears did down the stretch. I thought they were pretty solid. They had a nice 5-game win streak there for a bit. And the losses late in the year were close games against Kennesaw and Louisiana Tech late in the year. Arkansas State was a covering machine, in the midway part of the year. They had ripped off 5 straight point spread covers. Their losses were very competitive ones to Southern Miss. They only lost by 6. To the Cajuns, they lost 34-30. That game went right down to the wire. And then, of course, they got a win against Appalachian State 30-29 in their last game of the regular season. Obviously, you've got a good quarterback, too, on their side. Jalen Raynor's been around for a long time. Dual threat for this Arkansas State team. We'll see how he fares here in this matchup against Missouri State. The numbers, they did have a few too many interceptions for my liking. 16-11 was the touchdown to interception ratio for Rayner, but the completion rate was pretty good. We'll see how he fares against this Missouri State defense. Now, Jacob Clark had 11 interceptions, too. He just threw a lot more touchdowns, 24, compared to the 11 interceptions that he had. You look at weather here for this bowl game. There won't be weather issues. This is a dome facility here, the Ford Center in Frisco. So this will be indoors, actually, this matchup here, Missouri State and Arkansas State. So this is another one where I think there could be some points. Missouri State went to the over, cashed the over in 3 straight games to end the regular season. Arkansas State's last 2 games, 64 and 59. Both of those games went over the total. They're betting this thing under, and I get it from a pace standpoint. Neither team plays at a blazing tempo by any stretch of the imagination. But, I think both offenses, there's reason for success here. Missouri State in the over. That's kind of where I'm leaning at the moment with this one. C-Mac, what do you think? Xbox Bowl.
Xbox Bowl. I love these names of these bowl games. Arkansas State, they've been tough for me to figure out. Like, this team has been pretty good.
Good as a dog, not so good as a favorite's been the thing that stands out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they just have to win here. They gave up 100. Their run defense isn't great. Missouri State doesn't run it a ton, but they should have success throwing it. And Arkansas State offensively, the turnovers, man, I had them a couple times. A lot of turnovers in a few of these games. So that's a big deal. And one thing, I think they're -9s, 119th in the country. You know where they're good at is if they get pressure is this D line. Linebackers are pretty good too. They had 31 sacks. I think it was around top 30 for Arkansas State. So if they could get some pressure, It's just if they don't, there's the problem. Everything breaks down, and we saw them give up big plays. But I think their offense can move it on Missouri State. So I lean the other way with Arkansas State. Just not a lot of trust for me, in this game.
All right, good stuff there. All right, next up as we continue along, we got a busy Friday this week. We've got, obviously, at night, we're going to have the first college football playoff first-round game. But before that, we have 2 afternoon bowl games. In fact, this one starts in the morning on both the East Coast and the West Coast. This is 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on the West Coast here. Friday morning, Myrtle Beach Bowl, Kennesaw State, Western Michigan. We've got Western Michigan 4-point favorites, 49.5 the total here in this game. As far as opt-outs are concerned, nothing massive here as far as this is concerned. There's a couple situations where there's some injuries on the defensive side of the football. A couple injuries on the defensive side of the football for Kennesaw, but really other than that, both teams look like they'll be locked in and into this game and playing. You got Amari Odom, who finally got healthy down the stretch, quarterback for Kennesaw. And, of course, Brock Lowry leading the way for Western Michigan at the quarterback spot. You look at this matchup here, and Kennesaw is a team that if they are going to have success running the football here or offensively in this game, we'll have to see if they can have success throwing it, because running it on Western Michigan is not an easy thing to have. It's not easy to run it against Western Michigan. Western Michigan's run defense numbers are outstanding. So what will we see from Amari Odom in the passing game, I think, will go a long way to determining the outcome of this game. And here's the thing that leaves you very, very optimistic about your chances if you're Kennesaw. You didn't run the football with much success against Jacksonville State in the Conference USA Championship game, but you won the game because Amari Odom was still able to throw for 246, 26 for 32, very efficient, 6 incomplete passes, really, really solid stat line in the passing game. You're going to need that because Western Michigan is a very tough defense, one that's even more difficult to run against. Passing game's got to be working for Kennesaw, and at least against Jacksonville State, we did see signs of that passing game able to work for them. Both of these teams are conference champions. Kennesaw won Conference USA. Western Michigan won by double digits, 23-13 against Miami, Ohio in the MAC championship game. So these are two teams normally, again, conference champions in a minor bowl game. I usually like to fade them, but they're playing each other. So someone's got to win this game. So really it becomes matchup based. And when you look at the Western Michigan offense heading into this game, Miami O, what we know about the Chuck Martin coached Miami O team over the years is they're a pretty solid defense, but they did struggle to contain Jalen Buckley, the outstanding running back for Western Michigan, who had almost 200 rushing yards against Miami O, and it really took a lot of off the shoulders of Brock Lowry and the arm of Brock Lowry. He only went 8 for 13, but he didn't have to do a whole lot because Western Michigan rang up 286 total yards on the ground versus Miami. So that's the good news. Can they have that run game working here against Kennesaw State? That's the one thing to look at. And you would look at the numbers and say there's probably a good chance that Buckley and the Western Michigan ground game will work here because Kennesaw has given up 4.4 yards per carry and 175.5 per game on the ground. That ranks 108th in the country. So a bit of a leaky run defense for Kennesaw. So really interesting game here. For Western Michigan, it's going to be, I think, a little bit of a line of scrimmage advantage potentially for them here in this game. So this is one where I'd lean to the favorite a little bit with the Broncos in this game. Do I lay the 4? We'll see. Kennesaw has just been one of these teams where, I've been looking for spots to bet against them. I keep thinking their statistical profile is not as good as the wins they've been able to achieve, but they keep outperforming their statistical profile, making it not the easiest team to bet against. But if you forced me to make a bet in this game, in a game that I probably will pass, I would lean a little bit to Western Michigan. Maybe lean to this under too, just because of the fact that you got Kennesaw is not a fast-paced team. We saw a very slow pace with them in Jacksonville State. We know with Western Michigan, run heavy, churn clock. That's what you get. Pretty good defense. So this is there's a lot of bowl games I think are going to be higher scoring here in the first week or so. I'm not sure this is going to be one of those games, though. C-Mac, what do you think?
What do you get from Kennesaw that just the unbelievable year that they had? From just nobody saw this coming. And yeah, I mean, I was the same, and successful here a few times down the stretch in the spots to fade Kennesaw, especially on the road. Western Michigan, they have the better defense. That's what's a little bit scary here. As much as Western Michigan, Kennesaw should be pumped for this bowl game. The defense is way better, and they should be able to run the football pretty easier. That's a struggle for this Kennesaw defense. I think Western Michigan will be able to just milk this clock. I kind of agree with the under. I think this game, Western Michigan just wants to just drag you down, and they have this defense way, way better. And how much do you weigh these conferences? You know what I mean? Is the MAC the top of the MAC? That much better.
I think Conference USA is dead last, and the MAC is probably next to last
right
now.
there.
The MAC has really fallen a little bit the last few years.
Odom he'll be key here. Can they have some big explosive plays and get going in the passing game? I think it's tight. I just think they're tough. I want to take now Kennesaw as a dog, a team that was all of a sudden favorite all the time, looking for spots to fade him just off emotion. Maybe this is early, and we talk about these games. If you get I think both teams, even though they won their conference championship, like you talked about, should be pretty motivated in this one. That's early. You're watching it. Just bet it that way. See how everything's going. See how this Kennesaw defense is and how their offense is going against Western Michigan.
Well, C-Mac made the case for maybe Kennesaw +4 here. I'll say this to back it up. 3-1 ATS as a dog this year, Kennesaw. The only non-cover was against the mighty Big Ten champion, Indiana Hoosiers. No shame in that. And that was the one where they were, what were they there? 35.5 point dog. They lost 56-9. But other than that, covered every other game as a underdog this year. All right, next up, Gasparilla Bowl. This one taking place in let me just see here. Yes, Tampa, Florida, home of the Bucks, Raymond James Stadium. We've got NC State 6-point favorites, 58.5 the total in this game. It's another game where, as far as from opt-outs or, obviously, Ryan Silverfield for Memphis is on his way out, took the Arkansas job. Looks like one of the defensive back coaches will be the interim coach here for Memphis in this bowl game. Reggie Howard. Of course, Charles Huff was hired from Southern Miss to take over as the Memphis head coach next year. So a little bit of a coaching influx. That always makes me leery of, backing teams when they've got the coaching instability going into the bowl game, and we have that here for Memphis. But from an opt-out standpoint, it looks like here, as far as it's concerned, they do have some injuries in the secondary. There is potential for some NC State opt-outs. We'll have to wait and see. I know there's a couple players on defense that have kind of left their names out there as maybe not suiting up in this game, including Hollywood Smothers on the offensive side of the football, the running back for NC State. So that's definitely something you want to keep an eye on. So this is definitely one I'm waiting, until this game's on Friday afternoon. So I'll probably wait another few days before making a final determination, see what information rolls out between now and then. I don't think I'd be backing Memphis in any way. Don't know if I'd be rushing to lay 6, though, with NC State, knowing how their defense was not exactly great for much of the season. What I will tell you is that Brendan Lewis plays at quarterback for Memphis, and he was banged up down the stretch, but he certainly had ample amount of time to kind of heal up, be ready, and as healthy as he's been in some time for this bowl game. And from all indications, Brendan Lewis is playing for Memphis at quarterback here. CJ Bailey, I've seen or heard nothing about him not playing. It sounds like CJ Bailey's going to be good to go for NC State at quarterback. This could turn into a game with some points. I think so, if all of these guys play. So I do have the over circled, but I'm just waiting to make sure all these guys are a full go and in the lineup and on the field for this one. C-Mac, what do you think? Gasparilla Bowl, Memphis, NC State.
Yeah, are these quarterbacks going to play? I think so. Yeah, another one. Just like I mean, Kennesaw just had one of their corners in the transfer. There's not much, at least so far. Here we are on the 15th. Really haven't heard anything. So, and what do you make? I thought this NC State defense sucks, but they played better at home the last couple of games. Like, does that continue?
Problem is, this ain't at home. This is a neutral field.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Well, and how much was it? Right. Was it improving and at home a little bit? Because, man, anytime they went, I mean, teams just kicked the shit out of them, and they weren't very good. So kind of were they getting better? The offense looked good in those last couple of games against North Carolina. And this is my problem. I'm interested Lewis plays with, I just don't know the psyche here. This is the one with Memphis. Just the play down the stretch. Obviously, we talk about all the time. Favorites, fade city with Memphis. But I'm interested them as a dog here with, especially if Lewis plays, because I think they have the offense to be in this game. Like, keep this a one-score type game just because NC State's defense is very good. And I think they can move the football maybe a little bit against them. But this is a wait to see that and a little bit the motivation. Like, when a team loses 3 or 4 down the stretch, Memphis had a little bit, I think, higher hopes. It just kind of all collapsed. Coach now gone. What do you get? So, yeah, I lean Memphis here. Just wait and see.
All right, good stuff. All right, now we move on to the first round of the college football playoff. Looking forward to it. And the first game of the first round, Friday night, to get it started, Alabama, Oklahoma. We've got Alabama 1-point favorites, 40.5 the total here in this game. Alabama revenge, yes. And we've seen at times this year the revenge angle has mattered. Alabama beat Georgia during the regular season, and we just saw Georgia pay them back and beat Alabama in the championship game. Yeah, finally getting the better of Alabama. And that was a winner for both of us. We liked the Georgia side. We certainly leaned to the Georgia side in that game, in the SEC championship game. You've got Bama revenge. They lost at home in Tuscaloosa to Oklahoma earlier this season. But I saw Alabama just not look that great down the stretch, and it's bothering me about backing them here because I think the offensive line's had problems. The run game's been inconsistent, and I don't think Ty Simpson's played as well. Now, the offensive line has not been as good down the stretch, but it's affected negatively Ty Simpson. I find he's just
he was off.
Yeah,
he couldn't do anything. Yeah.
A little bit banged up. They're trying to not make too big of a deal about it right now. But certainly, like I said, I don't think we saw the best at all from this Alabama offense down the stretch. That's troubling to me heading into this playoff game on Friday night in Norman, Oklahoma. Problem is, you've got an Oklahoma offense that since John Mateer started the year like looking like a Heisman candidate. That's how well he was playing early in the year. But then he got hurt. He missed some time, came back, and hasn't been that same, certainly not throwing the football and even running it. He's been a little bit more, I don't want to say cautious, but, he hasn't been able to have that same thrust, that same burst we've seen running with the football. So anyone interested in an under, I couldn't really say no to that, other than it's a pretty damn low total, right? 40.5 is what we're looking at with it. It feels like this could be an offensive struggle both ways. It's not like Oklahoma's offense was marching the ball up and down the field to end the season. The first meeting was 23. Now, the problem was the first meeting, it stayed under, but that total was 46.5.
I was going to say that because I had it. Yeah. We got almost a touchdown 21 around there.
Right.
Yeah.
44 points. That being said, if you look at that box score from that Oklahoma win in Alabama, you had a pick 6 from Ty Simpson in the first quarter. A couple of those drives, there was some penalties and special and return yardage that made it a shorter field, and at the end of the day, Alabama had, they did have 326 through the air, but Oklahoma only had a little over 200 yards. So it easily could have been less than the 44 combined points that we saw in that first meeting between the Crimson Tide and the Sooners. So I'm leaning under. I'm leaning Oklahoma. I know it's not easy to beat a teams 2 times in a row, but Alabama was not great to me, even in the Auburn win. After losing to Oklahoma when they beat Auburn, I thought it was, they kind of hung on. Thank good, if not for Kalen DeBoer rolling the dice and going for it on 4th down for the game-winning touchdown, who knows how that game would have ended in the Iron Bowl against Auburn. And then we saw that offense just look completely discombobulated, shut down entirely by Georgia in the SEC championship 28-7 loss. So, and I think there's some real concerns that Alabama just is kind of limping into this game. That revenge angle points to Alabama. And I like Kalen DeBoer in these big spots, big games. And who knows? Do we know if Brent Venables is ready to coach in a big spot like this? We haven't seen him in as big a game as this since he's been the Oklahoma head coach. But the form of Alabama down the stretch has me very, very reluctant to back them here on Friday night. C-Mac, what do you think here? College football playoff, first round matchup, Alabama, Oklahoma.
Yeah, there's no bargain. I mean, these teams just played, it was like a month ago or a little bit less in that game. That was the biggest thing.
Exactly 1 month ago, November 15.
Yeah, this game just could be a snail's pace. And this Oklahoma defense is really good. I mean, like we talked about Ohio State and Indiana, and that game. There could have been more points in that game, but there wasn't in that one. Well, I just like Oklahoma. The secondary has been all right, and you know why they play so well? That D line is good. I mean, they get after teams. They're tops in the country is Oklahoma in sacks, and I think it'll be tough again. And Simpson, in that game against Georgia, man, he couldn't hit anybody. It seemed like he was just way off. It couldn't anything going. I mean, with Alabama, you got to think, fuck, this team got 3 losses and we're here. I mean, you got to feel pretty good, and the revenge. But will it be enough? I don't know, because I just think this game, and you're not getting much right here. It's just pick the winner. I mean, we got basically, who do you think is going to win for this football game? And the second time, I think, and this is always one too, a little bit. I just got to dig a little bit more is the special teams, because field position here with these defenses. Look at that. I want to go through, a little bit with that. Kickers, the whole deal. And these are the games. This is it. Like, everything comes out to play here. Trick plays, the whole deal. So, yeah, I kind of lean Bama, even though it looked bad. And I think people are going to see that. Everyone sees what they last saw. Like, geez, I think, what I was just how bad they play. But I think the Georgia defense, this is when you talk about peaking at the right time. Man, we talk about some of those early struggles in high-scoring games, that they had at Tennessee and Ole Miss. I mean, they looked the best I've seen all year long, I have to say. I know the game they played Georgia Tech didn't do anything in that snooze fest. Not that Georgia was lighting it up either, but I think that showed. This should be good. I'm leaning Bama.
Definitely could be certainly an advantage in the field goal kicking for Oklahoma, because that Tate Sandell was very good, and then Connor Talty on the other side here for Alabama, 13 for 20, for the season with field goals. That's not great. That's not a great percentage, and we did see him, have some inconsistencies at times throughout the season. So, in a close game like this, it's important to really scour every phase of the game, not just offense, defense, special teams. And we've seen special teams make a difference for Oklahoma. We've seen their defense pick off and return one for a touchdown against Simpson in the first meeting. We think they might have a little advantage in the kicking game, Oklahoma, considering Connor Talty with his inconsistencies as far as makes are concerned. So, like I said, something to factor in for this matchup on Friday night. All right, that's a good one, though. Next up, our second game of the first round of the college football playoff. And this is the first of a college football playoff triple header on Saturday. We've got Miami and Texas A&M to get it started. A&M, 3.5-point favorites, 51.5 the total. This is noon Eastern on Saturday. I'm not taking Miami in a big game. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. I know it's just not. I would be surprised if I'm not on A&M here. 3.5. It's a number that I wish it was a little less than that. But at the same point in time, I look at Miami and I see still a team that when you look at their schedule, they really played. When you really look back on it, the South Florida win, I guess, is really good. The Notre Dame win in the early part of the year, solid. Although, again, that's C.J. Carr's first start in his collegiate career on the road. And then you go back and you look at Florida State, fell off. Louisville, not the same Louisville this year. Stanford, and then, of course, they lost to SMU as a 10-point favorite. And SMU is a solid team, but like I said, that's definitely, like I said, something that concerns me. Syracuse, NC State, up and down. Virginia Tech. The Pitt game was impressive, but, Pitt, again, had its inconsistencies throughout the year. I just feel this is where it really becomes the challenge here. And I think for A&M, what I like situationally for Mike Elko and his Aggies, they got slapped in the face coming into this game. They lost to Texas in rivalry weekend there, that final weekend. It's definitely a situation where I think that kind of wakes them up maybe a little bit for this. It gets them a little bit more, dialed in when they're, trying to prepare for this game. One obviously key player to watch out for here is obviously, now they've been without him down the stretch for several games. So they've been used to being without him, but there's still hope that Texas A&M gets their stud, outstanding running back, Le'Veon Moss, back. We'll see. But they haven't totally ruled out the potential that he's able to maybe give it a go.
He's been out a long time, too.
Yeah.
A couple months.
Here in this game. Mike Elko said that Moss and a couple of key players on defense, are likely all going to suit up. They had a couple of injuries on the defensive side of the football as well. So, like I said, that's definitely something to keep in mind here going into this game. You look at the Miami offense, though, it certainly was good down the stretch. But, again, when you factor in Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Pitt are the opponents, yeah, you put up 34, 38, 41 in all those games. Can you manage to manufacture that here against Texas A&M on the defensive side of the football? That's the question. A&M was a strong over team until their last two games, but their last two games were Samford, and a Texas team that was kind of erratic all year as far as the offensive side of the football is concerned. This is one where at 51, lean over a little bit. And like I said, I am interested in A&M here in this game. Just to make it a little more interesting, I might do a A&M money line and over same game parlay and get the total maybe into the 40s. Just increase the odds in my favor in this game. But certainly right now, like I said, for all that Miami did to get in the playoffs, and you can argue we're not here to talk about whether they should be in, whether Notre Dame should be in. The bottom line is we're here to talk about the games that are on the schedule, the games that will be making up the college football playoff. And right now, Miami's in. And, for that, so from that standpoint, we're looking at this game solely. Again, this is now the biggest game in Mario Cristobal's coaching tenure. And I think talent-wise, he's done a nice job. He's recruited well. Carson Beck bringing in an experienced quarterback. That's part of it. Defense is very athletic. But again, sometimes he gets in his own way in these big spots with time management, with clock management, with in-game decision-making. And it's something that really does concern me in a game that we can expect to be a competitive game. I'm leaning A&M, but I'm telling you, I don't think A&M is going to blow them out, run them out of the stadium. I think it's going to be a pretty close competitive game. But those faults of Cristobal certainly linger in my mind going into this game. C-Mac, what do you think here? Miami, Texas A&M.
Yeah, it's just both those guys. I don't trust Cristobal and Beck. I don't trust them in big spots. I've seen these guys fail, and Beck's been pretty good. He's had this few struggles. Hey, what do we get from him? I remember the SMU game. It came out a little bit. He had a couple picks in that game. They lost.
Yep.
Really in the second half. One thing, if Miami is in this, it's got to be that defense. Can they hold down this Texas A&M offense? But A&M's at home here, where they've been really, really good. You talked about the loss at the end of the year. It was just kind of the spot I thought to fade them at Texas. That wasn't going to be easy, but the place should be rolling. And I don't know if it's enough. Like maybe this is Texas A&M. I with their schedule, I've been impressed with the Miami defense. But are they really good? Like, are they just okay? I always talk about that until we get to like they play top teams, or the top of the SEC. We talk about like with Oregon, some of these other teams. They just don't, they don't play enough good teams. You know what I mean? Throughout the, and how do you kind of decide where the ACC stands up to the SEC? So, yeah, this is a wait for me. I don't know. I want to trust the Miami defense, but I don't trust the head coach and the quarterback. So not at A&M. So I'm waiting here.
All right, next up, we've got Tulane and Ole Miss, another college football playoff first-round matchup. Ole Miss 17.5-point favorites, 55.5 the total. I don't know. It's pretty tough for me to back Tulane, and it's pretty tough for me to fully commit to laying 17.5 with Ole Miss. Tulane obviously will have Summerall coach. He's staying with the team through the end of the playoff run, so he will be here, even though he's moved on and taken the Florida Gators job. And we expect most of the Tulane coaching staff, all of the Tulane coaching staff, to be there as well. For Ole Miss, it's a lot more in flux. Lane Kiffin's gone to LSU, and you've got pieces of his staff staying around Oxford to coach Ole Miss here in the playoff. Defensive coordinator Pete Golding is the new head coach, not just interim, permanent head coach. He'll coach them next season. And Charlie Weiss Jr., it looked like, he left to go to LSU with Kiffin, and now Kiffin's given him his blessing to go back and be the offensive coordinator here for Ole Miss in this playoff game. So there's all kinds of moving parts here in this game between these two teams. I mean, we do have the piece of evidence of these two teams going head-to-head earlier this year. And all we saw in that game was Trinidad Chambliss light up the Tulane secondary. And the Tulane secondary this season has had all kinds of problems. They're pretty good against the run, and they showed that. But you can absolutely throw on them. And Trinidad Chambliss, man, boy, did he throw on them in that first meeting, in that 45-10 Ole Miss victory over Tulane back in September. What did he have? 307 passing yards in that game, 17 for 27. He also ran 112 rushing yards in that game, Chambliss. So he showed his dual threat capabilities there in that game, and Tulane really had a hard time stopping him and stopping that Ole Miss offense. Now that Charlie Weiss Jr. is calling the plays, there shouldn't be much of a hiccup as far as the operation, right? The play calling, the scheme, it's still going to be intact because the offensive coordinator that's been the OC there all year is now going to be calling the plays. And then you turn it around to the Tulane offense, and Jake Retzloff certainly had his fair share of solid games and performances for Tulane, but 5 for 17, 56 passing yards versus Ole Miss in that regular season meeting. And as someone that had Tulane against North Texas in the AAC championship game, I'll take the win, and I'm happy they won. But they feasted on just turnover after turnover for North Texas. Drew Mestamaker had 3 interceptions in that game. They also lost 2 other fumbles. They were a +5 in the turnover margin, Tulane, in that win against North Texas. And yet, there's North Texas still trying to make it a game in the fourth quarter. They probably should have won that game by a lot more, believe it or not, considering they were +5 to the good in turnovers. Tulane probably should have won that game by more than 34-21, by more than 13 points. So it kind of looks like they played pretty well, but when you factor in that there were 5 turnovers by North Texas, they probably should have won by an even bigger margin than that. They didn't always make the most of turning those turnovers into mistakes, or turning those turnovers, I should say, into points. Defense still had some issues, because let's not forget, if not for those turnovers, North Texas was going to score, because they still gave up, over 400 yards in that game. And in fact, North Texas outgained Tulane in that one. So the bottom line is, this is a game that I don't think I'm getting too much involvement with. other than to say maybe Ole Miss team total over, because I don't know if Tulane's going to slow this offense down. And as I always say, if I think the bigger favorite is going to have success and move the ball, I'm usually more interested in betting a team total to the over with that team rather than laying the 7.5, or 17.5, I should say, and risking, a bunch of shenanigans late in the game or a backdoor score potential. So the team total is 36.5. It's no bargain, but Ole Miss scored 45, against Tulane in the regular season meeting. They scored 38 against Mississippi State. They scored 34 against a really good Oklahoma defense earlier in the year, 35 against Georgia. They're very capable of hitting 38 plus, in my opinion, in this game, because let's not forget, we've seen Tulane, CMAC, away from home, by the way, give up 32 to Memphis, 48 to UTSA, and the aforementioned 45 to Ole Miss. So if you're asking me what am I closest to betting in this game, and a game I don't love, probably be that Ole Miss team total over 36.5. CMAC, what do you think here?
I already like it. I know this is the second time around. I just think Tulane at home, everything went well. I mean, from the refs, the turnovers, it worked out for them against North Texas, who rolling North Texas team too. I was hearing from everybody that North Texas was just going to go in there.
They're also a home road split dichotomy team, Tulane, on defense. Pretty much all their good defensive games were at Yulman Stadium at home in New Orleans. You get them on the road, and boy, they were giving it up to some of the better offenses.
Yeah, and it's like, how much do you take from shutting Charlotte out, right?
Nothing.
And Army.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I guess East Carolina has pretty good offense. They kept the
again,
19.
at home. Yeah.
Yeah, at home. Then this has just been a bad matchup. I think they played a couple years ago. It was 37-20. It's just, we saw it already this year. And I don't know if it changed, because as long as you have this offense, I think it's going to work. Chambliss, I mean, he was that good. He was that good in the first matchup. So, and I think this would be better if it was under 17. I don't be laying it, but I think they can get there with their team total. I just don't trust. So I think the dream is dead here for them. They get the win at home, and it's over here. And a little bit, the lone thing is Ole Miss. They got to be pumped. I mean, they're in this, but it's like everything that's gone on with Lane Kiffin and that whole thing, it's got to put a little bit. Do they come out slow? That's like a little bit. And this is the second matchup, between these two. It's kind of gives me a little bit to think about. As much as I just think in the end, the offense kind of will get there with the points.
These games I've mentioned for the college football playoff have weather issues, but our last game for the college football playoff first round matchup Saturday night in Eugene, there could be some weather here. I'm looking at 72% chance of rain Saturday night in Oregon. But again, doesn't look like it's going to be a downpour, and the wind is going to be light. So that's the good news for this one at Autzen Stadium Saturday night. James Madison, Oregon. We've got Oregon 21.5-point home favorites, 48.5 the total in this game. There is certainly fear in my fear for me of taking teams like Tulane, like James Madison, knowing last year how those teams that were, fringe teams, G5 teams, how they struggled, to step up in class and get the job done. We saw obviously Boise struggle. We saw SMU got annihilated. Now SMU was an ACC team, but still, they don't have that same kind of history in a big power conference up until that point, and they got run over by Penn State. And there's that belief that maybe that happens to Tulane, as we mentioned, against Ole Miss, and there's that belief maybe it happens here to James Madison as well against Oregon. The one thing, though, is we're talking now this number's north of 21 here against Oregon in this game. And when you look at the Oregon's victories, by 12 against Washington, 15 against USC, 14 at home against Wisconsin when they were 31-point favorites, and Wisconsin had a dreadful year. To win by this kind of margin, is Oregon going to be capable of it. And you also look at the fact that Oregon, on the offensive side of the football, yes, Dante Moore can throw it, and he certainly showed that, throughout the course of the season. But the run game is a huge component of what makes Oregon go. There's no question about that whatsoever. With that great stable of running backs, led, of course, by Jordan Davison and Noah Whittington. They're outstanding. Those two guys, especially when you get them in space. But James Madison is one hell of a good run defense. Now, this is one hell of a good run defense at the Sun Belt level and against lesser competition. But there's no doubt James Madison can shut down the run. And with that great run game that Oregon has, is that enough to let James Madison hang around? That's the question. And another thing you have to factor in is James Madison is a clock bleeder. They are absolutely as slow as can be, and they know they're going to have to play that way here in this game to give themselves a chance, knowing the fact that probably from a speed perspective and an athleticism perspective, there's that look in this game that, they've got to keep this game lower possessions to give themselves a chance. And obviously, to try to, especially when they have the ball on offense with Alonzo Barnett and company, to be able to keep that Oregon offense off the field. But again, I think another factor for me here in this game is at some point, if James Madison's going to, do their best to keep themselves in the game with this, defense to try to negate the run, at some point you're going to need your offense to do something, and that's not going to be easy because every time I've seen James Madison go up against some of the better, like a Louisville, for instance, the offense didn't work. The offense really didn't function. And Louisville is by far like the best power conference team on James Madison's schedule. And in that Troy game in the Sun Belt Championship, holy shit, the passing game from Barnett was really non-existent. It was not impressive, whatsoever what we were seeing.
I don't know how he's going to throw it.
There you go.
With success.
And at some point, if he is going to struggle like that, you might be able to catch Oregon napping with a big big gainer on the ground early in the game. But at some point, if your quarterback's going to have struggle and problems chucking the ball down the field and pushing the ball down the field vertically, Oregon will eventually cheat at the line of scrimmage to stop the run and dare Barnett to make it happen through the air. And I'm not sure he can do it on the road in this kind of environment after what I saw against Troy. And to be honest, what I saw against Washington State, where James Madison's life and death to win that game. So you know where we're at? We're at a really hard spot here where I think if you got below 21, I'm maybe more interested in laying it with Oregon. But now we're above a key number. We're not going to get any damn pace in this game. Oregon doesn't play fast either. It's not the Chip Kelly Oregon anymore. They're 103rd in the country in seconds per play. James Madison is 122nd in the country in seconds per play. Now, this is going to be a slow-paced game. There's not going to be as many possessions. That's why the total is 48.5. That's a big number still to ask Oregon to win by, considering you're going to get fewer possessions. You still have to respect the JMU run defense. Now, whether the JMU run defense is just so great because they faced weaker teams, weaker run games, this will be the true test because Oregon's is, very potent, very powerful. But like I said, I think just with what we're going to get pace-wise in this game, are we going to get enough for Oregon to put themselves in a spot where they can win this game by 24, 28 points? There's too many matchup concerns for me to take James Madison. But like I said, the number's gotten to a place where I'm not totally keen on over 3 touchdowns to lay it either. C-Mac, what do you think here? Maybe James Madison team total under. That could be a safer look if you're interested in just saying, you know what, we don't think JMU is going to be able to have an easy time of it moving the football. I'd probably prefer that in this game if I were to fade the JMU side in either way. C-Mac, what do you think here? James Madison, Oregon.
That's when I go through this game, it's like if they cover this, it's bleeding the clock and they're moving it against Oregon on the ground. Is James Madison? Can they do that? And this is tough. It's at Oregon. I saw we had that Washington State in that game. I think both of us. And they were at home there. And it was a little bit of a struggle. And I think the James Madison run defense is good. It's just skewed here. The numbers, they just haven't really played anybody.
I truly think they're a great run defense, James Madison, but the problem is they haven't faced anything close to Oregon's type
the
of
speed.
Run. Yeah, and the speed. Right.
Of Oregon. So the worst thing is like them getting down. Like maybe if you like James Madison, it's early.
First half, correct.
See if they can get some drives together, and maybe even just points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if it's a field goal, you talked about, it's not going to be horrible weather, just normal weather for Oregon, right? Here, rain, cloudy, a little bit.
December night. Yep.
Yeah, for typical December night in Eugene. So, like, I when I was going through it, I was like, I'm looking for a way with James Madison. It's just on the road. I forget the ending of that game. They backdoor covered or hung on versus Louisville there, and they looked good early in that game. Louisville had a really good fourth quarter, I believe.
But then they wore down, which speaks to your point. If you like JMU, man, first quarter, first half, I'd be scared about full game because they wore down against Louisville, and if they wore down against Louisville, they can damn sure wear down late in the game and just be gassed and just spent when they get to this fourth quarter and that Oregon speed and just starts leaning on them.
And on the road in situations like this, I didn't think they could throw it like we talked about with Brent. It's like take care of the football. That's just always success. I mean, we go through it and try to handicap what happened, but it's like, the ball's wet in the big game. We don't, those are just kind of fly by, these turnovers in these massive, massive games. So, yeah, I was thinking, I just hate it's on the road. Because I think maybe James Madison could have some success running. And if I was Oregon, I would just sell out. Who's got a pretty good run defense, sell out and make them throw it and kind of just go man against James Madison. So, in that game, that's why I was worried about. I mean, James Madison was laying 24 and a half for Troy. That was a huge number. And because they had just kind of been beating everybody up. And Troy, a little early, they kind of wore them down, especially in the second half, and they had 14 in the fourth quarter. But, man, I just hate this at Eugene. But if they can have anything early, and even if I don't get on, if you could see this early, if they could, running the ball. Because they definitely, I think, now if we're crazy great, but I definitely think they could run it here on Oregon. Can they move the chains, and kind of keep this game, keep the clock ticking, tick tock, tick tock.
That's going to be the key. There's no doubt. And like I said, the definitely fewer possessions, the better here for James Madison. I would say that, like I said, if you're going to invest in the Dukes at all, take them early. So just to recap for these games, for me, Oklahoma certainly would lean under in that game as well. A&M in the over versus Miami. I'm probably going to be on that Ole Miss team total over 36.5. I do like that. I definitely probably will bet that. It's probably my favorite look of the entire four games in the first round. And then this one, I'd probably look James Madison either first quarter or first half, maybe. And that's it. Because I kind of think now 21.5, I could see them hanging early, but they get worn down as that game goes on. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with the four college football playoff first round games coming up. This week. Looking forward to it for sure. All right, let's go back to bowl action. Next Monday, December 22nd, we have the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, home of the Boise State Broncos, of course, as it always is, Albertson Stadium. Washington State, Utah State 3-point favorites, 52.5 the total here in this game. As far as the bowl situation here in this game, big news is Jimmy Rogers, the head coach of Washington State's gone, bolted for the Iowa State head coaching job, won't stay to coach the bowl game either. And a lot of the players were taken aback by this and very, very shocked and upset by it. And I'm thinking it's going to be a mass exodus here in Washington State. Betting markets agree because Washington State was a 1-point favorite. Now we're seeing Utah State 2.5, 3-point favorites. I think there's some truth to that. I think there's some concern that there's not a lot of players that are going to be hanging around here potentially for this bowl game at this point in time. We've already seen a couple players on the defensive side of the football land in the transfer portal. As of now, Zevi Eckhouse, the quarterback for Washington State, is playing. But I think that this is one of these deals where things could certainly change. If I'm reading the tea leaves properly, C-Mac, I think there could be more opt-outs for Washington State. That's just based on what I'm kind of thinking and seeing and reading to this point. Meanwhile, you have Utah State, who come into this game. Obviously, a team that has a pretty good quarterback, the Utah transfer, Bryson Barnes, 6-6 on the season. Played pretty well down the stretch, undervalued too from a point spread standpoint. 8-2 against the spread. The last 10 games, 10-2 against the spread for the season. So a wonderful team, one of the better point spread teams, Utah State, in college football this year. I'm in agreement. I got on this after the Rodgers news that he was bolting and the players were – as soon as I read an article, players upset, Jimmy Rodgers suddenly leaving for Iowa State. I said, I'm betting Utah State right now because this could move. And I got in at -115 money line, cheap money line on Utah State. It's gone up a little bit since then. I think they're the right side. I think they win this game. I just think they're more invested in it. And they're a good offense, so I could see them moving the football here. So I like Utah State here. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, it seems like Utah State, that's why, is motivated here. Nobody really going. One thing with them, though, they don't have a great defense, and they're just when they play good football, it's at home. I'm sure they'll have plenty. Both these teams should have at least some fans. I mean, we've already hit on this.
Yep. These
fucking bowl games suck. And, so it's like to go over these again, it's just ruined it. And I was talking about earlier, I don't know, they got to pay these guys now for these, maybe for them to play. But that's the only thing with Washington State. I get the move here. They a corner's already. One of their corners, Worthy's out. I think they have a linebacker that's already up. There's a few of them, and you've already hit on the head coach. Rodgers gone. The quarterback here has got to play. You know why? Even with you see how many opt-outs, it's just, do they want to play? Because they have the better defense. Washington State, especially as the year went on. That maybe could keep them in this game, especially. So that was my lone thing. So this is definitely a wait and see for me, for a while till this game.
Yeah, I mean, if there's not the opt-outs, I think I could always buy it back a little on Washington State, which I might, but we'll wait till we get closer to a kickoff. But right now, just, it's just a clear, reading the tea leaves here, I'm a little bit concerned here with the Washington State situation. There's no question then, and leaving them maybe a little bit vulnerable here in their bowl game, given everything that's going on. All right, next up, we've got the Boca Raton Bowl. We've got Toledo and Louisville. Toledo rather, 8.5 point. Actually, that's the other way. Louisville, 8.5 point favorites. The total here, 44.5. So obviously, we've got some news here in this game. Jason Candle gone to UConn. That's not the greatest hire, by the way. Jason Candle. I was never all that enthralled with him at Toledo as a head coach. How many times did he lose games he shouldn't have? So I thought UConn could have done a better job. Same with Arkansas. I'm shocked Arkansas got Ryan Silverfield. I think they could have done better than that as far as a head coach.
I don't think it's going to work out for him.
I don't think so.
I mean, maybe. I wish him the best, but yeah.
But we got to be honest. I don't think it's a great hire.
Yeah, we do.
100% true with that. And then, so Robert Wiener, good name, will serve as the interim head coach here for the bowl game for Toledo. There's a lot up in the air right now. And what I will say for Louisville is I don't know how much enthusiasm there is from their side necessarily for this bowl game coming up, because we're looking at a scenario here where there could be, a decent amount of players not suiting up for them at this point in time. There's a good chance that a lot of their skill position guys, including Chris Bell, the receiver, might suit.
Yeah, all there.
It's not even for sure, to play for Louisville here at the quarterback spot. So there definitely is lots of, like I said, questions and a lot of stuff up in the air. My first, and then on Toledo's side, you got a makeshift coaching staff. At the end of the day, though, my lean is Toledo. I usually like these MAC underdogs in bowl games, when they step up in class against a potentially disinterested, disengaged favorite. And Louisville could very well be a disenchanted, disengaged favorite here in this game, especially if multiple players end up sitting out for this game. So even with the coaching staff upheaval and Candle out of there, I'm kind of leaning Toledo here plus 8.5. But again, This is something I'm going to gauge closer to kickoff. Toledo or pass for me, though, for sure. I wouldn't be laying it with Louisville. C-Mac, what do you think?
I think so, too. I don't know if 8.5 is enough, even with all those skill positions you talked about with Louisville. And this seems like they could care less, I think, about this game, especially, so how good are some of these backups at these skill positions? And Toledo, this is one of the better defenses they've had. Can they come to play a little bit? But yeah, I was thinking of this. I really want over 10. I'm greedy as fuck when it comes to the points, as everyone should know. But I think Toledo's in this for sure. I just don't know what we get from Louisville. And I think it's a way, too, to make sure who's going to play on the defensive side of the ball, but on the offensive side of the ball as well. So, yeah. And some of these numbers, Toledo played some somewhat step-up games, where they lose at Washington State. They couldn't score. That's a little bit of the issue here.
Yeah, they kept it within single digits against Kentucky early in the year. So there's a couple.
Yeah, I remember that. That was an ugly game early on. Yeah. So, I think they could be live here, especially we got this total that's sitting kind of low here at 44.5.
And for the most part, they've been a pretty good underdog and an absolutely terrible favorite. Remember the Washington State game where they struggled? They were a favorite in that game. So again, but
that was crazy.
They've been good.
So
we'll see if that again. Track record of Toledo over the years being pretty solid in the underdog role, if that can continue here in this one. All right, next up, New Orleans Bowl, obviously at the Caesars Superdome. Western Kentucky, Southern Miss. Western Kentucky, 4-point favorites, 55.5 being the total here in this game. Of course, Charles Huff leaves for Memphis and that coaching job. So we'll have to wait and see as far as, again, this is, we're still over a week, 8 days away from this game. It's Tuesday, December 23rd. Still need to hear more info on this. So all we can assume right now is that at the moment, we've got, a lot of these players that are at the moment expected to play here in this game. If it wasn't for the situation with Huff, Southern Miss is absolutely a team I would have been looking at back, especially as a dog catching points in a bowl game. But they limped down the stretch. They didn't play their best football down the stretch. They coughed up a chance to win the Sun Belt or at least be in the Sun Belt championship game with that rough finish to the season. Now the coach is gone. Who knows what that means for Braylon Braxton, because Braylon Braxton's gone wherever fucking Charles Huff's gone. So from that standpoint, I wouldn't totally be big. It's like they're joined at the hip. So I wouldn't even be totally, sold on him starting here in this game. There's a lot up in the air. I think if there's opt-outs galore and Braxton out, you might be able to go ahead and lay it with Western Kentucky here. I think they'd become the side. But I've got to get this Southern Miss situation clarified before I'm interested in backing them. But I think it's very contingent upon the opt-out situation and Braxton's status in particular. If we see him sticking around and playing in this bowl game, I'm sure the rest of the troops will follow. And then they might be live here catching 4. Maybe it's a sign, hey, they're interested. They want to win this bowl game. It's been kind of still a resurgent season for Southern Miss because they've been a horrible program prior to this year for the last few years. But again, I need those players in, showing a sign they care, showing a sign they want this bowl game before I back them. So wait and see. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to play. Who knows? That's why this is it's like, I kind of like Western Kentucky. To me, there seems like there'll be some points in this game. It's just
New Orleans Bowl is usually an over, usually high score.
Yeah.
Total's reasonable. It's only 55.5, and you'll get pace both teams.
Yeah, you should. I always am a little bit pump the brakes, but it seems like Western Kentucky's going to come in here feeling good. When I lay points with them, it's not something I really love to do at all. I mean, they beat teams like Missouri State. They were 4-point favorites. They covered against Nevada. And I think this offense is pretty good, but I just don't love the defense. It was weird to see. That's how bad LSU's gotten. And that game was 13-10. Just a total snooze fest to end the year, which is kind of crazy, catching 24
Tyson Helton had guts to start Rodney Tisdale, the quarterback on the stretch, because he handpicked Maverick McIver and Maverick McIver's offensive coordinator to come over, and yet the offense just wasn't clicking the way he expected. And then when Maverick McIver got injured, he had to go to Tisdale. But then when he got healthy, McIver, he stuck with Tisdale because Tisdale,
I think it's the right move.
And unfortunately, Tisdale had a shit game against Jacksonville State with the chance to get to the Conference USA Championship game. So we'll see. Does McIver get back in here or not? Or is that bridge burned? That's another thing.
I think it's burned.
Yeah.
I think it's burned. And that was a tough spot for Western Kentucky. That was a pretty good game with a bunch of points. But yeah, I like Tisdale. I got my old Wayman Tisdale. That's how old I am. When I think of that name.
That's going back in time for sure. All right. So that's Tuesday, December 23rd, and this is the second game on Tuesday, December 23rd. The Frisco Bowl, UNLV in Connor's neck of the woods here, taking on Ohio. UNLV 4-point favorite, 62.5 being the total here in this game. You got to give UNLV credit in the fact that they did finish the season better. They looked very vulnerable early in the year. Defense was awful, especially in the early part of the year. It did improve down the stretch. I'm still wondering how Hawaii struggled so much against them. They did shut down, Nevada as well. So they did play some better games. But then against Mountain West, in the Mountain West Championship game, Boise was too much for them. Madison. What's funny is that the run defense, which had been the bigger concern, wasn't that terrible against Boise. It was the pass game that really shredded them. Madison started chucking the football, and it was the big plays through the air that really.
Which is weird to see. He's not the best quarterback. As we saw the other night. Yeah,
absolutely. It was a surprise there. Ohio, Parker Navarro. Obviously for him, we'll have to wait and see on what's going on here. But Brian Smith, the head coach of Ohio, is leaving. So they've got the DC taking over as the interim coach. I haven't heard anything about Parker Navarro not suiting up. If Parker Navarro's in, give me Ohio, and I like an over a little bit here in this game because I'm not sure Ohio's defense is going to shut down UNLV here either in this game with Calandria and company that we know how good the offense was. I still have concerns about the UNLV defense. Like I said, and the Ohio defense, there were some games there that are troubling to me. You give up 21 to Eastern Michigan, 21 to Northern Illinois, which wasn't a great offense, 26 in the final game to Buffalo. They had some issues. And now you got to fit. UNLV is going to make those teams look like they were snail and, from the 60s on offense, with how good UNLV's offense is. So that's the worry for me about Ohio is I don't know if their defense is going to contain UNLV, but I think Ohio will score, especially if Navarro is going to suit up at quarterback for Ohio. And don't forget, way back early in the season, how competitive they were against Rutgers, in non-conference play. This was good, and West Virginia for that matter. Now, I know West Virginia is not great. Rutgers is not great. But Ohio played very well in non-conference play against some of those power conference foes they played. Now, this is not power conference. This is G5, obviously UNLV, Mountain West. But I think Ohio can hang, especially if Navarro's in. So right now I'm leaning Bobcats and leaning over. C-Mac, what do you think? Frisco Bowl.
Yeah, if he's in, I think they're the play, even though he seems like he throws a pick every game. Like every single game I watch him, I'm like, there's his turnover for Navarro. But he'll be able to run it if he's playing, which is good. Yeah. They should be able to run it on UNLV, which to me keeps them in this game. And both these teams, I mean, everybody for the most part, I think is gonna play. There's not many opt-outs, right? Here,
not yet. Anyway, looks like.
I mean, UNLV.
Now this can change. This is still over a week away, but now all hands on deck. Everyone's good.
Like one thing, I think UNLV is motivated here. They want to build, though. That's like kind of the only other thing,
right?
In this spot, do we get the UNLV that's like gonna play back and forth through a 4-point game, or like that's a field goal or less because the defense, where we see the defense that played a little better. They were never going to win. We had talked. They never have gone to Boise. That Smurf turf. They're just allergic. They're allergic to blue.
Yeah.
UNLV. Like I swear. I mean, I don't know when they're going to go in there and win. That's for sure. But this game is interesting, just because I think Ohio with LeVar could move the ball, which could keep this game maybe and get back and forth. Maybe it's at points. Maybe we get over.
Indoors, too. It'll be a dome stadium. Again, this is 2 bowl games in Frisco, Texas. This is the second one. So, again, won't have any weather issues. Fast track. Could definitely see points here with UNLV and Ohio. All right, let's go to, Christmas Eve. No one likes to who doesn't love, a little, if you got no family, nobody to spend Christmas Eve with, how about you place a bet and watch the Hawaii Bowl on Christmas Eve night? California and Hawaii, your Christmas Eve tradition. California, 1.5, 2-point favorites, 54.5 the total here in this game. It's interesting here from a Hawaii standpoint because they're playing, basically right close to home here. So, are they excited, playing at home here in this Hawaii Bowl? We'll have to wait and see on that. Certainly when you look at this game at the moment, as far as opt-outs are concerned, Justin Wilcox obviously was let go. Nick Rolovich is going to be taking over, and he'll be the interim coach here for this bowl game for California, which is interesting because he used to be with the Hawaii football team for a bit. So a little bit of a return match here for Nick Rolovich being involved with the program he was once with. It'll be interesting to see. Of course, they hired the Oregon defensive coordinator to be the permanent head coach next year for Cal. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as opt-outs are concerned, JKS, Jaron Kiave Sagapolu-Tele has already declared he's coming back. So there's probably a good chance he plays at quarterback here for this Cal team. As for the Hawaii Warriors side of the equation, I haven't heard anything as far as too many injuries or opt-outs at the moment. They do have one of their key receivers, Jackson Harris, is in the portal. Other than that, like I said, everyone at the moment seems to be planning to play here in this Hawaii Bowl. Should be an interesting game. I could see points. I'm certainly the overs circled, especially if, obviously, for Hawaii, if we get Mike Alahado, which is, I'm assuming, yes, we are at this point in time. I think Hawaii could probably move the ball. Now, again, this is one where you want to wait on the total. You have to wait on the total with these Hawaii home games because you never know with the wind. At the moment, the wind's not going to be that bad for Christmas Eve night. 14.
It could blow
per hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
With all the upheaval for even though I'm worried about Cal's offense having some success, with all the upheaval with Cal's coaching staff, I would lean Hawaii +2. I'm interested in the over if the wind's not too bad, but I'm going to obviously wait closer to kickoff before locking those positions in. C-Mac, what do you think here, Hawaii Bowl?
Hawaii won't. Give me Hawaii here. Give me at home.
Yeah.
Like, this is just in their backyard. It's just, they should be pumped for this. I think Cal, there's just, obviously Wilcox's tenure is gone.
Vacation. You always ask yourself that.
Oh, yeah.
Going from the mainland to the island to play here in this Hawaii Bowl. Yeah.
And one thing with Hawaii we've seen, is Cal a little bit better? Maybe this line is about right. It should be a pick. Maybe they're a little bit favorite, and people see that they beat SMU and looked really, really good. Weird shit on this island. Like, if I was Cal, yeah. And of course, being there, they got to just feel great. Not that Berkeley is a rough part where they are, but to be there. But just short and sweet. Just give me Hawaii here. I think they come to play at home.
All right, good stuff indeed. One thing I will point out, too, about this matchup is we know this is the run and shoot of Hawaii. Now, I will say this about Cal. The run defense was worse than the pass defense, and Hawaii doesn't run it a ton. But, like I said, that goes out the window if Cal's treating this like a, vacation, as opposed to a, business trip and going there to win a bowl game. So that's something to, really factor. You'll tell right away, like I said, with Cal, whether they're dialed in from the opening kickoff when you're watching this on Christmas Eve night. All right, next up, we've got on Boxing Day, as they call it in Canada, Friday, December 26th. We've got the Sports Bowl, Ford Field in Detroit, home of the Lions, Central Michigan, Northwestern. We've got Central Michigan. It looks like Northwestern at 10.5 point favorites in this game. The total here sitting at 43.5 across the board. I've tried to make a case to back Northwestern is on multiple occasions this year. Some of them have worked out, some of them haven't. But now we're in a different stratosphere of a point spread with Northwestern, 10.5-point favorites. And for Central Michigan, going bowling, Drinkle, the quarterback, the coach here this year, I think he did a pretty nice job, with this team. They're going to be a run-heavy type of group, obviously bringing that Army, style of offense with him this season to Mount Pleasant here with the Central Michigan group. What I'm seeing right now is at the moment, everybody playing it for Central. Now, Northwestern's got a couple guys that might opt out. They have definitely some key injuries on the defensive side of the football late in the season. But I'm definitely leaning Central here, plus 10.5 in this spot, as far as being able to keep this game competitive. Anytime you're asking me about laying 10.5 with Northwestern, not all that enthusiastic about doing that. When you look at this point spread, they're laying 10.5. They beat ULM by 35. They beat Purdue by 19. And there's not a lot of other pieces of evidence on this schedule of Northwestern winning by a double-digit margin. And I think this Central Michigan run game, which is obviously what they want to do, they want to run the football a lot. They don't throw it much. Can have some success here. It's an okay but not a great run defense that Northwestern has. And their pass defense is better than their run defense. Well, Central Michigan doesn't throw it a ton either. So with this number being where it is, and again, you're playing in your own home state. So, there should be some, it's not good. Let's not kid ourselves. I've seen this bowl game in Detroit. They used to call it the Motor City Bowl, the Meineke Car Care Bowl. It's been a bunch of different freaking names over the years, but it's always been in Detroit. And I'll tell you this right now, you're not going to get many people in this stadium anyway. But at least I think for Central Michigan, they'll have some semblance of the student crowd, showing up, even if it's just 60, 70 people. There'll be someone showing up here for Central Michigan. So the run game, I think, can keep them close. A lot of points. I'm interested here in CMU, Central Michigan, in this game. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I like these defenses. It's just to this fucking bowl game. What's going to happen here? Because everything tells me, these defenses are pretty good. These teams want to run the ball. They stack the box, and these teams are slow. Central Michigan's been at the bottom all year, right around 130th. I think they finished 127th. But of course, we know Northwestern. They're 112th. It seems like a snooze fest. But it's just in the bowl game, weird shit happens. You know what I mean? Where it's just to me, this could be a slam dunk under spot. I think Northwestern is better. There's just no way. There's no way I'm going to lay 10.5 points with them. This could be one where Central could hang around in this game and cover. So this is a wait for me, but lean under, lean Central.
All right, good stuff. And at the moment, like I said, as far as this game goes, we don't have right now. It's looking like a lot of we definitely think Joe Labas, the quarterback for Central Michigan. And we definitely think that Preston Stone for Northwestern are playing. We haven't heard anything otherwise as of yet. But again, This game is Friday, December 26th. So you're going to want to obviously make sure as we get closer to kickoff, you stay on top of the starting situation for both sides with all these bowl games. All right, next up, Rate Bowl. This is also Friday, December 26th, New Mexico, Minnesota. Minnesota Golden Gophers, 2.5-point favorites, 47.5 the total. This game is in Arizona, as it always is, at the Chase Field, Phoenix, home of the Arizona Diamondbacks, of course. They converted into a football field just for this bowl game every year. I'm here to tell you right now, this might be my favorite bet of there's not many bowl games early in the first few weeks. I say, I really, really like this bet. I really, really like this side, especially sides. There's some totals I like, as I've mentioned. But there's not a ton of sides that I really like. This is one of them. I already bet New Mexico. I got +3, 2.5. I still like it. This is a team you can guarantee is excited to play and wants to win. There's no doubt about it. Jason Eck, what a coaching job he's done with this team and this program. Unbelievably, they are a Utah State win away against Boise State. They are a Utah State win away in that game from being in the Mountain West Championship game this year. What an incredible, incredible turnaround for New Mexico football this year. He did a great job. They found themselves a pretty good quarterback, too. Let's give our flowers to certainly what we saw from Jack Lane, the quarterback. They've got McKinney and Bankston, pretty good running backs. They got some weapons at receiver. The defense is still the area that's, lagging a little bit behind for New Mexico. There were games they give up points, but they run a really good offense. The play calling's good. The scheme is good. And I know this team's excited to go bowling here in Arizona for this game. And Minnesota, this is not one of PJ Fleck's better teams. This is a below-average Minnesota team. All year, they couldn't run the football properly, even with a good back like Taylor. They couldn't get the run game going consistently. Drake Lindsay, the quarterback, was mediocre at best. When I watched him play, nothing jumped off the page. Accuracy at times wasn't always there. Decision-making at times, interceptions as well. And the Minnesota defense even was gashed for portions of the season, which makes me think New Mexico, with all this time to prepare for Eck and how excited they are, they come with a good scheme and game plan. They could probably move the ball against Minnesota. It's not that same Minnesota defense. I still remember, even Nebraska, for crying out loud, which had a mediocre offense, running up and down against Minnesota's defense in a Friday night Big Ten game at one point this year. I think New Mexico is excited. I wouldn't be shocked if they just go out there and win the game outright on the field. And for me, Minnesota, it's just one of these mediocre teams playing a bowl game that's like, take it or leave it kind of enthusiasm I think we're going to see from the Gophers. So I like New Mexico here quite a bit. I think they win the game. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I like New Mexico too. I mean, good job getting the 3. I'd have to be on that unless, you know what I mean? I got to look at I think this is an under. Like, how I just don't see Minnesota being motivated. They can't run it. Now, New Mexico has struggled a little bit, their secondary, but will Minnesota be able to take advantage of that? Right. I thought down the stretch, the best thing that improved was New Mexico's defense and against the run. We saw it the last, 3 or 4 weeks?
Yep.
I mean, the San Diego State win, Air Force 20-3. They played really, really good. Yeah, I mean, this is close. This is, a little jolt over to Arizona for New Mexico, which, I wish I kind of backed more all year. It's one of those teams like I took as dogs. Man, I don't know how much you could lay it with them, but, they were very good down the stretch. So, yeah, to me, this is under and lean New Mexico.
All right, next up, Friday, the last game for Friday, December 26th, First Responder Bowl. Gerald Ford Stadium in Dallas, home of SMU, is where this one will be played. Florida International, UTSA. We've got the Roadrunners, 8.5-point favorites, 59.5 being the total here in this one between these two teams. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But like I said, for UTSA, a couple injuries, no opt-outs really for the most part on the FIU side of the equation. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But Kewan Jenkins looks like he's playing at the moment here for Florida International on the UTSA side of the equation until told otherwise. And again, this game's still a decent amount of time away, over a week. Owen McCown's good to go. My first thought is over in this game if the weather's not going to be too bad. I think both teams can have success moving the football. And as of now, it looks like it's going to be no precipitation. The wind not terrible here for this game on a Friday night in Dallas. So keep that in mind. I think when you look at this too, the UTSA Roadrunners offensively late in the year started to get humming a little bit, no question. Also a big over team, 6-1 to the over their last 7 games. And here's the thing with Florida International. They shut down Sam Houston, but there's also games where they gave up 30 to Middle Tennessee, 28 to Missouri State, 45 to Kennesaw, 27 to Liberty. And UTSA will be one of the better offenses probably the Golden Panthers of FIU have seen. So my first thought is over. I don't know if Florida International is going to stop UTSA, so that's why I'm not in love with taking the points. I could see UTSA really having success moving the football. Plus, this game is obviously in Texas, so UTSA should have some following here and crowd support for this game. The over is what I like most of all. Maybe a UTSA team total over as well, because I think Florida International is going to have a hard time defensively against them. C-Mac, what do you think here? FIU, UTSA.
Yeah, when I saw this, I thought this is one that could could have a bunch of points. I mean, does it really matter who's going to be at quarterback for FIU? Whether Jenkins maybe plays or the other? I mean, he played the finale. Didn't he have to? Because
because Joe Pasansky's the guy that took over.
But he didn't play the last game. I think
he did not. And he played all right.
He played all right.
Played more than okay. 4, 5, 7. I'm looking at 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. The completion rate wasn't bad. To me, there's not a huge difference in drop off Jenkins to Pasansky or vice versa.
One thing I think I like FIU a little. UTSA, their offense could carry him here if they're motivated. But they finally lose at the end of the year to Army. Shout out to Army. Just couldn't get it done, but they covered. That was a hell of a 4th down pass by Horvath for the Navy touchdown. But anyways, to this shitty bowl game. UTSA, I just think they'll be able to score, but I don't trust this defense. They just seem like a different team on the road, just again and again. I know it's a bowl game, neutral site, yada, yada, but I base it off that. If you're not in that fucking dome, the Alamo Dome, where they love it, they just seem out of it a little bit. FIU, talk about a team that was competitive, that had struggles turning the ball over, ripped 4 wins to end the year. I think they're pumped to be here. I like that over you're talking about, but I'm interested here in FIU.
Yeah, there's some truth about the road performances. I mean, none of them were, other than there was one great road win against a bad Charlotte team, but they got pummeled by USF. They got pummeled by North Texas. They lost to Temple as a favorite on the road, and they barely beat Colorado State on the road, UTSA. So
the bad Colorado State team.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point. If you want to endorse FIU, that's where you start. With maybe that UTSA just too erratic on the road away from home, away from the Alamo. To fully trust them. All right, Saturday, we got a ton of games. What a day of bowl games it is. Saturday, December 27. There's like 6 of them, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. We'll start with Pitt and East Carolina. We've got Pitt 7-point favorites, 57.5 the total in this game. East Carolina beat NC State last year in a bowl game. Did they not? They did. I remember being on East Carolina last year. In that bowl game against
I like him here.
I like ECU here. Exactly. I'm not laying 7 with Narduzzi and Pitt in a bowl game. Obviously, there's going to be question about who's going to be, at quarterback here for the Panthers in this game, because obviously they started with Holstein. They replaced him and went with Mason Heinschel, but Heinschel got kind of banged up late in the year. It looks like he's probably going to have enough time to be good to go here. It could be an over, too, because I could see points in this game. East Carolina defense, still a little bit shaky. They gave up 58 to UTSA, 27 to Memphis. Their offense, though, got going down the stretch of the season. Caton Hauser leading that, up-tempo, fast-paced offense. London Montgomery running the football pretty effectively later in the year as well. So, again, the weather right now for that game is fine. Again, long way away, Saturday, December 27, but no weather issues right now. Right now, Dogg leaning over here in this game. East Carolina and the over is what I'm looking at. What I got circled here for this Military Bowl in Annapolis, Maryland. Basically, it's where Navy plays. C-Mac, what do you think here? Pitt, East Carolina.
Yeah, I think this one could be a good game. And where we could see some points, like he talked about. East Carolina, their D coordinator left, right? Did their offensive coordinator leave too? Where'd he go?
Yeah, the defensive coordinator's gone to South Florida. The offensive coordinator's gone to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So it's like, the offensive coordinator's gone, it could hurt the offense. Defensive coordinator's gone, it could hurt the defense. So, yeah, you could say it could hurt the both of them, but I don't trust Pitt. And East Carolina showed up in their bowl game. Head coach is still there.
Maybe this is just the over.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit of a bargain.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that defense against better teams, East Carolina, they struggled a little bit, but they were able to score consistently. We know Pitt can move the ball, and these defenses, depending on where they're at, did have, played well at times, but I don't know if I trust them. But I kind of like ECU, catching the touchdown, the over.
All right, Pinstripe Bowl. Obviously, Yankee Stadium is where this bowl game is every year. Penn State, Clemson. We've got Clemson 3.5-point favorites, 48.5 the total. With Penn State, the clear situation is we've got opt-outs galore, including some key players. Both running backs, Allen and Singleton, aren't playing. The great running. Trebor Pena, one of their better receivers, isn't playing. A couple of key players on defense are out. And obviously, this is a team that's, we're going to have to see if Grunkemeyer plays. Even that's not a sure thing as of yet. Interim head coach, is in there now, obviously, as well. Terry Smith, the interim coach for this bowl game. Plus they also see a offensive coordinator hired as the OC at Virginia Tech for Franklin. So he took basically his co-OC at Penn State with him to Virginia Tech. Jim Knowles, is heading elsewhere. The coaching staff is gutted. There's players left and right missing for this game. I already bet Clemson. And Clemson played hard down the stretch. For as tough a season as they've had, Dabo and company, they're not used to playing a mediocre bowl game like this. But, at least the players showed they give a crap late in the year, and when it looks like it. Now, they've got some opt-outs, too. 4 players, declaring for the draft. But Klubnik says he's in. At least now he says he's in. We'll see. But to me, there's just a little bit more, I would say. Clemson really played hard down the stretch. It didn't mail it in. Dabo kept saying to anyone that'll hear, no one, we don't quit on ourselves. Nobody's quit on this season. We're trying to get better every week. It's a bunch of jargon, but believe it or not, they played like it down the stretch, Clemson. So you got to give them credit for that. I think there's still value. I certainly would be terrified to bet Penn State. They look like there's just zero juice for this game whatsoever. Players right through the coaching staff, which is gutted. So Clemson or pass for me. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, this is one I don't think I'm going to be involved at all with. Just too many moving parts and too many guys, whether it's Penn State transferring and going to the draft. And you hit on, the 2 or 3 D linemen, corner for Clemson. I can't trust Clemson. I'd like to hear something good out of Penn State. That's where I'd be. I'd be on the other side. I'd take Penn State here. It's just, who gives a shit? And who gives a shit here? Like, these teams are so disappointed from the regular season, all the high hopes. Clemson, the top couple, whatever the hell they were. Best. I heard multiple people tell me this is the best Clemson team, in 6 years or whatever the fuck. No way. They're not. So I know they played better down the stretch. Hey, Penn State played better, but they're going to have a bunch of guys out. This is, the total wait and see or bet live. As of now, I'm off.
All right, next up, as we continue along, this is also all these games that we're wrapping up the show with are Saturday, December 27. Next game, it's the Fenway Bowl, Fenway Park in Boston, UConn, Army. Army 8.5-point favorites, 48.5 the total in this game. I knew this line was going to move. Obviously, we know there's a lot going on here with UConn, a lot of moving parts entering this bowl game.
Yeah, everyone leaving.
The quarterback's gone. Skylar Bell, the quarterback, looks like Skylar Bell, the great receiver, looks like he's going to be possibly not playing here as well. A couple other opt-out potentials here for this game. Army, especially, you always get the service academy teams showing up in the bowl games. Army's got a long-term track record of doing pretty solid in bowl games as well. So, I got involved early. I think this could even go higher because this was close to this was UConn favored by 3.5 initially, and now it's Army 8.5 at the moment. I didn't even get the 3. I got it 4 with Army, and even then I got it below the key number of 7. It's gone past that. I think this is probably woodshed beatdown. I don't see a lot of focus, players interested, that kind of thing from a UConn standpoint, especially with Jim Mora Jr., stepping down. And obviously now they hire Jason Candle to take over makeshift coaching staff. Army always shows up, plays hard in these bowl games. It's probably a one-way game for me, Army or pass. It's just a question, do you want to lay a worse number now at 8.5? C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know everyone's leaving here at UConn. I think this is 2. And I was just
Maybe
I
under?
think laying it.
Is that what you're thinking of? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Army, when I was going through this, I just think they're going to run all over them. Like, I think they could get their team total in this game.
Yep.
Like, this UConn defense, as well as that offense was, in fact, I mean, the quarterback play. I mean, how long did he go without an interception?
The offense carried them because you're right. Their defense
carried them.
It did.
They had issues. I think Army,
one of them. Yes,
is going to run all over them. Their team totals, I think, around 27.5, 28.5.
Yep.
For Army, I think they get that if you don't want to lay the points here. One thing with Army when these teams they want to be there. They want to play. It's just the effort was there, and I mean that game was another good game against Navy. But I think they'll be able to run the football and get to 30 points here against the UConn defense. It's already bad, and then dealing with enough. Yeah. So yeah, I like the team total here.
I would not talk you out of that. That's for sure. All right, Pop-Tarts Bowl. We always joke about this being one of the bowl games. We got Georgia Tech and BYU. BYU 4.5-point favorites, 55.5 the total in this one. Looking at the situation here, because again, we've got at the Buster Faulkner, great offensive coordinator, by the way, for Georgia Tech. He is now taking over as OC with Florida. John Summerall hired him to be his OC there, so it looks like Chris Wenke is going to take over to be the play caller here for the bowl game.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see for BYU here, too, because for Georgia Tech, they've got some injuries. It looks right now, and this is the guy that if he plays, there's a chance Jamal Haynes plays, and a lot of the starters on both sides of the ball play, because he's the leader of the team, and that's Haynes King. And Haynes King right now
he's got to go
at this point.
Yeah, if he's good, which I think he would. I thought he would, too, but you never know.
Is that, and if it is, there's no way I'm going to be laying it with BYU. It'll be Georgia Tech or nothing. I think there's a little bit of a bubble burst that I worry about for BYU. Their one last chance to maybe get into the playoff was winning the Big 12 championship against Texas Tech, and that game they had no shot in it. They got blown out. Now you're playing in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. You're one win away from getting into the college football playoff, and now you're playing in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So put 2 and 2 together, and I'm not laying 4.5 with that. Not to mention Bear Bachmeier got banged up against Texas Tech at the end of that game. How's his health going into this game? Is he even going to play? Is he going to be healthy enough to play? All of that. If Haynes King's in, Georgia Tech's a go for me. C-Mac, what do you think?
I know, and what I kind of think of that, if he's going to be banged up, it's just tough with the goddamn bowl game. Like, I kind of lean under when I look at it here. At Georgia Tech at times, at BYU, other than Texas Tech, they were kind of that team that went on the road. They beat Iowa State. And they made the plays in the end on defense, special teams. So you got to give it to them on how they played. Cincinnati, they went and won all these spots. Arizona, there too, where you think, but now they're laying points, and the disappointment. That's what it's like. Is big here. It's like I'm sure you're going to get the effort, but this is kind of one that seems like Georgia Tech that this could be a tight game, and you maybe want the points. And I get why people like BYU, but I kind of lean that way. It's a wait for me. This is definitely a wait, but I kind of lean Tech as well.
And it's not the best thing to do to wait for all these games because, again, we're talking about games that are Saturday, December 27, 12 days away, and a lot could change between now and then. So also caution to people that are watching this, later this week or even next week, that, a lot can change with what we're saying now compared to when you're watching this video. Like if you're watching this next week, there could be a million different opt-out news items and things going on.
And then you hear whispers, like this team, is like mail it in. And we're just nobody gives a shit about how, it's about these bowl games, which is just,
it's kind of a shame, but because the bowl season, as we know it, it's like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if they do away with bowl games completely in the next.
Do you think they maybe just keep the New Year's 6 and just run the playoff like these teams?
Games, that's it, exactly. That's what I could see.
How big of a money grab could these be? That's what I'm saying. You better they'd have to pay these guys like like an incentive, because I think they're like the fucking year's over.
Now the players are like these NIL deals and getting paid. You want us to play in the bowl game? Pay us more. There you go. That's where we're
pay
at
us,
right now.
Pay us way more. Show me the money.
No doubt.
Is that how college football?
Miami O and Fresno State. This is the Snoop Dogg sponsored Arizona Bowl. That's right. The one and only Snoop Dogg, the hip hop legend.
Yeah, man. That's crazy. Dude. How about that bowl? It was like hosted by Gronk, the Bucked Up Bowl, the LA
production. Now it's Snoop Dogg.
Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, the
Arizona Bowl out there in Tucson, home of the Arizona Wildcats. We got Fresno 4-point favorites, 43 the total in this game. I mean, Chuck Martin is a dog. I mean, right away, I'm kind of interested. Who's going to be the quarterback is the question here for Miami O in this game, because unfortunately, Gostkowski struggled, got banged up. Hessen took over, and he was terrible. So, like I said, I don't want anything to do with that Henry Hessen guy. But at the same point in time, this is the point spread role we often like Miami O in, is catching points. Fresno is such a weird team, right? They pound San Jose State final game, beat Wyoming, crushed Boise, and yet they had games where they got blown out by San Diego State at home, shut out, blown out by Colorado State. How does that happen with what the season Colorado State had? And then they lose by double digits at home to Utah State. So they just so erratic, so up and down. If I can get confirmation that the court, I like this for Miami, I like the Gostkowski a little bit more at quarterback, certainly than I do Henry Hessen. If Gostkowski is confirmed at quarterback, and even if, regardless, I'm leaning Miami O +4. Kind of one of these games where, if Fresno was erratic game to game, all regular season, which you look at their results, that's exactly what they were. How can you bank on them laying 4 in a bowl game? How can you do that with how up and down they were? So by default, I'm leaning Miami O +4. The one thing I know about Miami O +4 is this is a head coach that's good in this role long term. So I'm leaning Miami O. What do you think here, C-Mac?
You know what? Either
you're going to get a lot of running too in this game, so that's why the total's low. Yep.
And real quick on some of these guys, their best receiver Perry is transferred. They have a couple others. Maybe their D lineman is pretty good. And I'm going to look if there's any more.
A couple for Fresno on the defensive side, but you're right. Miami has got a couple on defense and their best receiver. Of course, DeQuan Finn left the program, but that was weeks ago. We knew that already.
I can't, as much as Fresno State, like I don't know how. Hats off to them, because I couldn't figure them out. And Warner, there's just no way. No way if he plays, it will be Conklin. I mean, it's kind of.
Remember, we got a team that lost in their conference championship game, and sometimes I like to back those teams in their bowl game.
So who plays quarterback? Is a little bit of both. Hessen and what's his face?
Gostkowski. I prefer Gostkowski. I think he was better.
I think so too. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a lean to Miami, Ohio. Yep. Like, I don't know what the fuck at Fresno. I wasn't able to figure them out at all, like really all year. So this is wait for me.
All right, New Mexico Bowl, North Texas, San Diego State. Mean Green 3.5-point favorites, 55.5 the total here in this game. The latest that we have on this game is North Texas. Eric Morris, gone to Oklahoma State, will not be coaching the team here in the bowl game. And I would expect that there's going to be some more guys sitting out here, I think, for North Texas. Some of these players might even go with him to Oklahoma State, including, I've heard rumblings, even Drew Mestemaker might end
I think he's going to go.
Going with Eric Morris to Oklahoma State here as well.
How does he not?
Yeah, I know, exactly. And then they've got, a couple injuries, as well to deal with for this game. All of that's interesting. Neil Brown, of course, has been named the new head coach here with North Texas. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Drew Swoboda is going to be the interim coach for this game. San Diego State, meanwhile, only a couple in the transfer portal right now, which is a good sign. Defensive coordinator for San Diego State, Rob Orich, moved to Nebraska. So obviously it's looking like, and Demetrius Sumler will be the interim defensive coordinator here for this bowl game, but not as much of a head coaching staff issue, in my opinion, for San Diego State as there is for North Texas. You got a North Texas team with all this fluctuation, maybe a quarterback out, maybe other players leaving and bolting with Eric Morris, laying points, coming off a disappointing loss in the AAC championship, losing to Tulane, losing their chance to be in the playoff. I've already moved on San Diego State. I like it. They're a defensive dog. I
Better
think
defense
side here. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think I think he goes too. So, how good does this offense run in North Texas?
I know Jaden Denegal was, erratic as hell, but still, I think the situation's pretty bad for North Texas. Like I said, I like San Diego State. Anything more than a field goal is still great value.
I think so too. Like the end of the year with that tough loss to New Mexico. But I think this defense is pretty good. And as bad, and maybe not as great as the offense is, I think they can move the ball against North Texas. It's got to be disappointing for North Texas.
I think so. Yep.
Which was playing over. They had a great year, that team. I mean, it wasn't easy to go into Tulane. And it seemed like everything went wrong. I know they tried to do a lot there at the end, but it just didn't work out. I mean, this has been a hell of a year for San Diego State. A team, I thought the defense would be better. I thought they'd win a few more games. Hey, way off. This guy, way fucking off on San Diego State, the improvements that they made. So I think they're feeling pretty good, even with a few of the guys in the transfer portal. A few D linemen. I think they have a linebacker. So that you got to stay on top of. But, yeah, I kind of like him here too in the spot.
All right, we got 2 games left for Saturday, December 27. Also our last 2 games of this show. We've got the Gator Bowl, Virginia and Missouri. Missouri 6.5-point favorites, 48.5 the total here in this one. Virginia loses in the ACC champion. This is another one where it's not easy to back these teams coming off some disappointment. You have a chance to be a playoff team if you're Virginia, and you fail at that chance, losing to Duke in the ACC championship. Can you pick yourself up off the mat now and be ready to play in a, let's be honest, more minor bowl game here, the Gator Bowl? That's going to be the question. For Virginia, by the way, there's also, definitely potential for no Jamari Taylor, the great running back, no Chandler Morris, the quarterback. We'll have to wait and see on that. This is something you're going to want to look at closer to kickoff of this game for Virginia. For Missouri as well, keep an eye on it because there's definitely some moving parts as far as their team is concerned. It's a wait and see, but as of now, I'd have a hard time back in Virginia, just solely based on the angle of they were that close, ACC championship, maybe a playoff berth. Now you're playing in the Gator Bowl, and now you might have, multiple players sitting out, not suiting up for this game. They are getting 6.5. And, can you lay it with Missouri? I guess that's the other question. But I'd be definitely more fearful of backing Virginia than Missouri here in this game. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, this is one a little bit too. I think you hear the more it gets closer. The guy's just not going to play. We're going to see on offense and on the defense side. We've already seen some guys for Virginia. I mean, how do you want to get up? I mean, a Duke team that just couldn't stop a fucking nosebleed.
They came back too to force overtime, and then lost.
I know it's
overtime. It's such a gut punch. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, they just got to feel like, what the fuck? Missouri. One thing I do know, this team. I don't know how much offensively they got a pretty good defense. Like this game could be tight. I kind of lean Missouri as of now, but it's a wait and see for me a little bit. Like, and how pumped is Missouri? I mean, I guess
right.
Like, it's like some of these I'm like, what the, who, what, when, where, why? Like, who gives a shit? Who's motivated? Who wants it? Blah 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 blah.
Maybe the under is the right move. It's gone down the total. And the one thing I'll say is Missouri's a more run-heavy offense for sure, and Virginia's strength on D was stopping the run. So if you're going to look at X's and O's,
their defense was pretty good. Missouri, I mean Virginia too. I mean that's why they won some good. Whether it was like even the loss, they lost a Wake in that ugly game. I mean Virginia Tech didn't do anything. North Carolina 17-6. I mean, maybe the under is a good look, and especially if we got backups, and depending who's playing a quarterback for Virginia and Missouri, for that matter.
All right, good stuff there. All right, our last game, this edition of Hitting the Books in our bowl part one, our bowl preview show part one. We've got the Texas Bowl, LSU, Houston. Houston 2.5-point favorites, 41.5 the total. I'm glad that we at least get to end on a bowl game where I've got an opinion and I've made a bet, and that is the case here in the Texas Bowl. I'm on Houston. I'm on Willie Fritz and the Cougars here, laying less than a field goal. I think they're invested. They will have Dean Connors, the running back, moving on. But other than that, it looks like, it looks like Connor Wegman's in too. It looks like they're going to have him. He said he's returning to Houston for his final season next year of eligibility. So Connor Wegman should be good to go. As far as the defensive side of the football, looks like everyone at the moment is slated to play. And then LSU, of course, with Lane Kiffin coming in, he's going to take over next year. Frank Wilson and the interim staff are going to have to handle this game. Multiple,
which means nothing.
Outs. Yeah,
like Lane Kiffin. When you think of that, everyone, there's going to be a ton of guys not playing here.
Yeah, and I think this line's going to go up. I think Houston's going to close 3 or more, probably above 3, if you ask me. I think it could move up. So if you like Houston, get it in, bet it now. I like Houston.
I'm dying, Savannah. Let me plug this in. Fuck.
There we go. I think he leans the same way, though, Houston, in this one. But C-Mac, if you can hear me, we're at the end of the show anyway. So if you want to rejoin, you can. But we're shutting it down in a minute or two anyway. But I think he was leaning Houston as well here in this game with me. But like I said, the reasons I like Houston is, look, on the LSU side, Garrett Nussmeier's not playing, which means you're probably going to see Michael Van Buren. I can't say I was impressed with what we saw out of him down the stretch, especially throwing the football here in this. You got Bayou Betts, who I'm sure is in Louisiana, telling us Houston moneyline best bet. So he's, I respect that opinion because he's probably right there, close to the scene there with LSU. So yeah, I just think they're a bet against team here in this bowl season. LSU. Whit Weeks has already said he's not going to play here in this game. A couple other guys that probably aren't going to suit up as well for LSU. So yeah, less than a field goal here. I like Houston. I already bet Houston. I think they get the job done here in the Texas Bowl. All right, shout out to everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. We hope you enjoyed our college football Hitting the Books show, part 1 bowl preview. Like I said, lots of fun, great stuff. Lane's not coaching them in this bowl game. He doesn't take over till after the season there. So it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be the interim staff handling this bowl game here for LSU. But thanks for tuning in. Again, we covered every bowl game from now, which is basically Tuesday, December 16 through to Saturday, December 27. So again, we've got lots of bowl action coming up. We also previewed the first round of the college football playoff coming up this weekend. Next Monday, we'll be back with you again, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, and we will have the part 2 edition of the college football Hitting the Books show, bowl preview show. And again, we will do all the remaining bowl games Monday, December the 29th and onward. We'll have all those bowl games next Monday on the show. And we will also preview the 4 college football playoff quarterfinals next Monday. One of them on New Year's Eve, the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State's in that game. And the other 3 part of a New Year's Day triple header of college football playoff quarterfinal games with Texas Tech, Indiana, and Georgia all involved, all waiting the opponent that they will play in the quarterfinal round. So we will tee up those games on next Monday's show as well. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. Appreciate everyone in the chat. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Looking forward to bowl season. Hopefully some profits. Yeah, it's murky. It's tricky with all these opt-out situations throughout these bowl games. But again, we hope we gave you some good information, and we hope we led you into the right pathway as far as some of these games are concerned from a betting standpoint. That's a wrap. Hit the like button on the way out. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Ian Cameron. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great week. Enjoy the first set of college football bowl games. and the first round of the college football playoff. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will be back with you next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, for part 2 of our college football bowl previews here on the College Football Hitting the Books show. Until then, class dismissed.